Hi everyone, my name's Alan,
And I'm Miguel.
and this is Recap Soccer, where we cover all things MLS, American soccer, and today we're talking about the 10 things you didn't know about the MLS, starting with MLS features the most geographically diverse and youthful player pool in the North American sports leagues. It's 81 countries represented as of April 2023. It marks the second consecutive year that players from 80 or more countries have appeared on MLS rosters and makes MLS the most globally diverse player pool amongst top North American professional sports leagues. The number of countries represented in the MLS in 23 is nearly double that of the closest top men's league in North America, which is the NBA with 45 countries. And the total is more than the NFL with 31 countries, the NHL with 25, and the MLB with 21 combined. It is quite a lot of countries represented in the MLS. MLS Today also released data on the average age of MLS players on rosters. As of April 20th of this year, the average age of MLS players is 26 years old and 129 days old. Also, the youngest among the top five North American sports leagues. The NBA is the closest next league with also 26-year-olds, but it is about a 40-day difference with them being 167 days old. Now, also led by 61 players born in the state of California, 39 of the 50 United States and the District of Columbia are represented on MLS rosters. Following California, only two other states boast at least 20 players. New York has 28, Florida has 22, Illinois has 19, Pennsylvania has 18, and that completes the top five. Among the United States cities, New York City is the birthplace of the most MLS players with 11. St. Louis is top there with 7. Then Las Vegas with 6, tied with Seattle, and Chicago making 5 um, players that were born in the city, rounding out the top 5 cities across the U.S. that produce the most MLS players.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting how like California has a lot of players coming from there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, they're all from the same city. Like, we see New York City lead with 11 players. So that's super cool. And I think that is a testament to one of the unique things that the MLS does, which is having the MLS draft. Essentially, if you're familiar with how other American sports leagues works, this topic, the players from college, the younger players can, impress scouts and they can actually be drafted directly into an MLS team. All the MLS professional teams have academy teams. Those players can also be drafted by other MLS teams. This year, they're actually expanding the pool for the 2024 upcoming MLS draft. They're including sophomores and juniors as well being able to participate, which is awesome. There's a lot of unique things that the MLS does that you don't see from a lot of other soccer leagues around the world. The biggest one I would say is how the league is actually split up into two different conferences. You have the Eastern Conference as well as the Western, and essentially, the teams play each other in the conference twice, home and away, and then throughout the year they'll also play some of the other teams from the other conference. It is a little bit different because obviously there's two winners from each conference, but that doesn't actually matter. If you're used to traditional soccer, it's after the league, the team with the most amount of points wins at the end. Pretty simple stuff. In the MLS, it is a little bit different. The team with the most points at the end of the league, regardless of conference, they're the Supporter Shield champion. So I guess, you get a trophy, but that's not all. The action isn't done yet. You actually go into a playoff format for the top teams from each conference, and you kind of battle it out for the MLS Cup, which is what every team wants. That's the major thing. So there are a lot of differences. One of the big changes as well is having salary caps too and designated players. But you might have something more to say about that and the big change that they made for designated players.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, David Beckham, he's the guy who back in 2007 changed the game. There was a salary cap for the MLS teams. They can go over a certain number. But then back in 2007, they said, well, we want to expand. We want to bring more popularity to the league and sport. And David Beckham was a perfect candidate, that all-star kind of celebrity player that they wanted to bring in, and he changed the salary cap rule. Now there's three players that are allowed per team to have, you know, open up more spend other than, that salary cap for those teams. So it's pretty neat to see the MLS now signing bigger stars, and without David, we couldn't have Messi now. We couldn't have any
Absolutely.
of those other big players that have joined the league.
Yeah, it
Um,
is a really interesting like a balancing act because you have, the MLS wants the salary cap, wants everyone to, to ensure that it's a competitive playing field and kind of make sure that, not one team can hoard all of the talent. We see this all the time in like with the English Premier League, you have Manchester City owning all the top players. So yeah, exactly like you said, with a designated player rule, it's kind of like a loophole to allow MLS teams to, be able to afford those high talent players, the players that we want to see play, players like David Beckham, the players like Lionel Messi now. It's a really good kind of step and change that they made in 2007 to bring more stars to the sport.
exactly. That's right, Miguel. And now on to other history-making moments in the sport. The MLS's back tournament in Orlando made history in 2020 when it set a Guinness World Record for the largest single-location professional soccer tournament, and it was hosted with the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex in Orlando. The tournament featured 51 matches in 35 days, which is absolutely insane. Just back to back physical, exercise, goals, fouls, everything in between, and involves 700 players and 500 MLS staff, which is absolutely insane. And for context, Miguel and I graduated from a high school with around 800 graduating class, which is very close to, 750, the number of players that played in this 35-day tournament, which was probably exhausting. Definitely overstimulating from a social
Yeah,
side.
absolutely. That's imagine having all of those players. It's like literally every player from the league and staff all in Orlando. That's crazy. And just one
Yeah,
stadium for all the matches. That's absolutely insane.
absolutely insane to see, a world record of this sort being set in such an epic stage. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see kind of what's physically possible with the MLS. What wasn't possible, though, was their MLS New York City Stadium, which was part of a Olympic bid in 2012. New York wanted to make an Olympic stadium in Queens, just around the Queens Zoo, the New York Historical Center, a skateboard park. There's also a big tennis arena there where there were professional matches being handled, and it's right next to LaGuardia Airport, one of the biggest airports in the world. Also, next to the water with some beautiful views of the city. Unfortunately, all of this didn't work out, and for many reasons. One of them being that the community in this area, wasn't as into building this gigantic sports complex, making a lot of noise, construction for several years, possibly some of the views in the city being obstructed. Also, they calculated, even with all the economic development, the travel happening in the area, all of that, it wouldn't be as profitable to make this stadium happen. It actually would have been a $15 million loss if they had gone through with it. And now, unfortunately, the New York Red Bulls have nowhere to play but Harrison, New Jersey. It's kind of funny that they're called the New York Red Bulls, and yet they play in New Jersey still. So it's sad to see there is no MLS stadium, in the heart of New York, Queens.
Yeah, definitely hope to see something soon. I think that brings up another good rule, which is now we have the newly expanded, franchise teams that are obligated to build a soccer specific stadium in order to compete.
Right.
Most recently we saw this with St. Louis and City Park. Soccer specific stadium, meaning the stadium was built with a primary purpose of hosting soccer matches. And yeah, I agree. There kind of needs to be one in New York. I don't know how that's not a thing. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly.
definitely some wacky rules, and that kind of even another example of a wacky rule was like back up until 1999 in the MLS. instead of how we're used to now. If you watch soccer, obviously the the clock counts up to 45 minutes, at each half, and then there's added time up until 1999, and then the MLS really quickly changed this rule. But you would actually have the clocks start from 45 minutes and then count down. So the ref was allowed to like stop play and stop the clock, but when the clock hits zero, it's done. There's no added time, which is like completely weird to think about that now because we have new rules in place that you see in the Premier League, and we saw it in this last World Cup, where refs are adding added time like crazy. We're seeing 8-10 minutes sometimes of added time. It's just wild that before, as soon as the clock hit zero, you were kind of out of luck.
Yeah.
But not all bad rule changes. MLS does have some unique things that I think set them apart from other soccer leagues. One of them is like the MLS All Stars and like Skills Challenge. So you have the top players at the midway point in the season competing. Before, they used to do it like Western Conference versus Eastern Conference, which I think is a really cool idea, and I like that too. Now what they do is like the top players from the MLS all play on the same team, and then they host an international team, just for fun. Like this year they did Arsenal. It was a great time, and I honestly think more, leagues should look into doing something like that, just some, content for the players.
Absolutely. And our last bonus fact is that Apple TV is the single, rights holder to MLS content, which is crazy to think about. I don't
Yep.
think there's any other leagues,
Nope.
in sports that share, exclusivity rights with only one company. So that is something new in the history of sports rights. And yeah, that rounds out our video. This is Recap Soccer. Thank you so much for watching our very first video on the top 10 things you didn't know about the MLS. Now, all of the resources are in the description below. All the, things that we use in this video, the things that inspired it, are going to be down there. Please like, subscribe, and catch us next time as we start getting ready for more MLS playoffs
Yeah.
matches. We're going to be recording those. We're going to be doing, previews, post reviews, you name it. And thanks again. Talk to y'all later.
See ya.
Bye.